And of course, the Melchizedek materials that I have photocopied that Wayman 29 gets a kick out of, and I do too, and there is an enormous amount of Melchizedek materials, and I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of articles, and then I have the Melchizedek tradition by Horton, because Melchizedek is in the 11Q Melchizedek of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Melchizedek is called one of the Elohim. He is called a god, and he sits in the council of the gods, and he carries out the decree of the council of the gods. And so there's some very important information, both from the Dead Sea Scrolls and both from the Melchizedek tradition, that is really critical to understand. And so, of course, we have the Melchizedek materials that we have to deal with. Mark S. Smith. I've used him before. The Origins of Biblical Monotheism. Now, Michael Heiser disagrees with the evolutionary information as Mark Smith presents the history of ancient Israelite religion. So it is very interesting to see these scholars working with the Ugaritic materials and with the Hebrew biblical materials and coming to really interesting, diverse interpretations of the information. And this is about Israel's polytheistic background and the Ugaritic texts, Mark Smith. Now, in line with Mark Smith's materials is also his book Untold Stories, where he talks about the various interpretations and ideas and translations and the importance and the impact of the Ugaritic archaeological discoveries. And of course I have the first edition of the Early History of God and his second updated edition of the Early History of God, Yahweh and the Other Deities in Ancient Israel. It's very nice to have both editions because we can see the additional materials, the additional interpretation, his changing of his early assumptions and so on and so forth in between the two editions, because so much more studies have come out on these subjects. It's a huge, huge subject. So right there, I'm looking at easily 1,000 pages, just in those alone. Frank Moore Cross, Canaanite Myth and Hebrew Epic. You cannot ignore this text. If I was teaching a college course, these are the materials I'd have you purchase. I'd make you spend $1,000 on my college course. It'd take me a year to teach it through, but that's what I'd do. And this would be one of them also. Canaanite Myth and Hebrew Epic. Must have. Frank Moore Cross. One of the big names. Another one of the big names that I would absolutely require is Andrei Orlov, the Enoch Metatron tradition, where he discusses the information from the books of Enoch, interpretations of this idea of Enoch going up to, in his ascension, up to the council of the gods. Then Margaret Barker, she has several articles, Where Shall Wisdom Be Found, that are essentially interesting background, the cosmic covenant, and the interpretation of the temple imagery in Philo, the origin of the logos, about this is essential background information on understanding the council of the gods. Then this very stunning, detailed, important study that my good friend Matt Roper talked me into getting is Angel Morphic Christology, Antecedents and Early Evidence by Charles A. Gieshen. This is from Brill in 1998. Very important New Testament and Old Testament information on the idea of the angelologies of Judaism, of later Judaism, in Second Temple Judaism. Then, of course, is one of the most significant, magnificent texts. The analysis of his Hebrew is absolutely second to none, and this is what made me realize I want to approach it. I want to teach you some Hebrew, some more Hebrew. I'll build up your vocabulary as E. Theodore Mullen Jr. describes the Hebrew in the books of Amos and the Psalms and Isaiah in relation to the council of the gods. Sensational texts. This is based on his PhD dissertation also. This is the Divine Council in Canaanite and Early Hebrew Literature, 1986. It's a reprint from 1980 from the Scholars Press. Absolutely essential text. Phenomenal reading. And then, this is now David Bokovoy. Now David Bokovoy is almost finished with his PhD, and he is also focusing on the Council of the Gods. His brand new article invoking the council as witnesses in Amos 3:13 in the Journal of Biblical Literature for 2008, brand new this year, sensational article. And then I have several of Michael Heiser's articles that I've photocopied off of his website as well, so that I can have them. Margaret Barker has some very significant, interesting information in The Great High Priest, a very essential, important book, The Revelation of Jesus Christ, and the Older Testament, discussing the implications of the Book of Enoch with all of this material. And then Raphael Patai, the Hebrew goddess, once again concentrating not only on the council, but on the female elements in the council. Very important. And then The Tree of Souls, The Mythology of Judaism by Howard Schwartz. This is a fairly new text, Oxford University Press 2004, the same year that Heiser finished his PhD dissertation. It's 620 pages of solid information, and he has a lot of information on the various ideas and views from the Zohar and the Kabbalistic aspects of this Council of the Gods. And I could bring in the Zohar if I wanted to. And then I have several different articles that I've photocopied from the scholarly journals through the years that I think are essential. The Mythological Background of Psalm 82 by Julian Morgenstern. This is out of the Hebrew Union College Annual for 1939. A huge, huge study on the interpretation of the Psalm 82. And then I have God and the Gods in Assembly by Matthew Tsevat. It's another article. And I have The Council of Yahweh in 2nd Isaiah by Frank Moore-Cross. That's in the Journal of Near Eastern Studies for 1952. Then I have another article, The God Yah in the Religion of Canaan by John Gray. This is in the Journal of Near Eastern Studies also. Then I have The Blessing of Moses by Frank Moore-Cross and David Noel Friedman. This is in the Journal of Biblical Literature for 1948. And then William F. Albright also has an article discussing the implications of the blessings of Moses and the idea of the divine assembly. And here's another one, Psalm 82, once again, Gods or Men. This is out of Biblica for 1995. This is by Prisloo, I believe. Let's see if I've got that. Oh, I gotta find it. Prisloo, I do believe. Yeah, Prinsloo, that's his name. And then An Unrecognized Meaning of the Hebrew Word Door by Frank J. Neuberg. This is out of the Journal of Near Eastern Studies, 1950-51. Very good on the Council of the Gods. And then Albright's Canaanite Religion, where he discusses the Council of the Gods. And then G. Ernest Wright on the Old Testament against its environment, about his interpretation of the Council of God. So this is a representative sampling. This is by no means exhaustive. But again, another dozen scholarly articles discussing various aspects of this Council of the Gods, showing that the biblical scholarship has pretty much confirmed now that the ancient Israelite religion really did believe in a pantheon of gods in the pre-creation phase of reality. These gods existed before creation occurred. Very fascinating. Blake Austin.